Have you ever noticed how you keep attracting the same type of people into your life? The same patterns, the same conflicts, the same emotional dynamics, just wearing different faces. You think you moved on, changed cities, started fresh, but somehow, there they are again. The unavailable partner with a different name, the demanding friend with a new face, the controlling boss in a different office. It's as if the universe is playing some cosmic joke on you, sending you the same person over and over again. But Carl Jung understood this phenomenon deeply, and his explanation might change how you see every relationship in your life forever. What if I told you that you're not actually meeting the same person repeatedly? What if you're meeting different people who are all reflecting the same unintegrated parts of yourself back to you? This isn't about fate or bad luck. This is about the unconscious mind's relentless drive toward wholeness, and how it uses every relationship as a mirror to show you who you truly are. Jung believed that we don't just meet people randomly, we magnetize them. Every person who enters your life, especially those who trigger strong emotional reactions, is reflecting something back to you about yourself. This isn't coincidence, it's projection. Projection happens when we unconsciously place parts of our own psyche onto others. The traits we admire intensely, the behaviors that irritate us beyond reason, the patterns we can't seem to escape, these are all fragments of our own inner world being reflected back through other people. Think about it. Why does one person's confidence inspire you while another's arrogance repels you? Why do you keep attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable? Why do certain personality types always seem to find you? Why can you spot a narcissist from across the room, but somehow still end up in relationship with them? The answer lies in the unconscious mind's sophisticated radar system. We're constantly scanning our environment for people who can carry the parts of ourselves we haven't fully owned, integrated, or healed. Jung discovered that our unconscious mind is constantly scanning for people who can carry our projections. If you have unresolved anger, you'll attract people who make you angry, not because they're inherently angry, but because they trigger the anger you've been suppressing. If you're disconnected from your own power, you'll be drawn to those who seem powerful or those who appear powerless, allowing you to feel strong in contrast. This magnetism operates below the level of conscious awareness. You might think you're choosing partners, friends, or even jobs randomly, but there's a deeper intelligence at work. Your psyche is seeking completion, wholeness, integration, and it will use every relationship as an opportunity to heal what's been fractured within you. Consider Sarah, who kept attracting men who were emotionally distant. She would complain endlessly about their inability to open up, their fear of commitment, their cold demeanor. But when she looked deeper, she realized she had spent her entire life disconnected from her own emotional needs. She had learned early that emotions were dangerous, that vulnerability led to pain. So she projected her own emotional unavailability onto men, then spent years trying to fix them, which was really an attempt to heal her own disconnection. This isn't about blame, it's about recognition. Every person who consistently appears in your life is a teacher, showing you something about yourself that you haven't fully integrated. One of the most powerful aspects of projection involves what Jung called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, or never acknowledged. These disowned aspects don't disappear. They get projected onto others. The shadow contains everything we've been taught is unacceptable about ourselves. If you were raised in a family where anger was forbidden, your shadow will contain your natural assertiveness, your healthy boundaries, your righteous indignation. If you were taught that neediness was weakness, your shadow will hold your natural dependency, your desire for connection, your human vulnerability. These shadow aspects don't die when we reject them. They go underground, where they become unconscious attractors. If you've disowned your anger, you might find yourself constantly surrounded by angry people. If you learn to hide your sensitivity, you might attract those who seem too emotional. If you've disconnected from your own needs, you might magnetize people who appear selfish or demanding. The people who trigger you most are often carrying your shadow. They're showing you the parts of yourself you've been afraid to own. Marcus grew up in a family where being too much was the cardinal sin. He learned to be agreeable, accommodating, never taking up too much space. But his shadow contained his natural exuberance, his creative fire, his desire to be seen and heard. Unconsciously, he kept attracting friends and partners who were dramatic, attention-seeking, what he called energy vampires. He would complain about their neediness, their constant demand for attention, their inability to just be quiet and normal. It took years of therapy before Marcus realized he was meeting his own disowned vitality in these relationships. The very qualities that annoyed him in others were the unlived aspects of himself crying out for integration. But projection isn't just about negative qualities. We also project our positive shadow, the good qualities we don't believe we possess. This is why you might find yourself in awe of someone's creativity, their confidence, their ability to speak their truth. You're seeing your own unlived potential reflected back to you. Jung called this the golden shadow, and it's just as unconscious as the negative shadow. When you consistently admire certain qualities in others while believing you lack them yourself, you're experiencing positive projection. Think about the person you admire most. What qualities do they have that you wish you possessed? Their courage, their authenticity, their ability to set boundaries, their creative expression. These aren't foreign qualities that you lack. They're aspects of yourself that you haven't fully claimed yet. The goal isn't to become exactly like the people you admire, but to recognize that the qualities you see in them exist within you as well. They're showing you your own potential, your own unlived possibilities. Freud first identified what he called the repetition compulsion, the unconscious tendency to repeat patterns, especially painful ones. But Jung took this understanding deeper. He saw that we repeat patterns not because we're masochistic or self-destructive, but because the psyche is trying to heal itself. Every repeated pattern is an attempt at integration. Every familiar conflict is your unconscious mind creating another opportunity to heal an old wound. Every person who triggers you is offering you a chance to reclaim a disowned part of yourself. This is why you can't think your way out of relationship patterns. You can't strategize your way to emotional freedom. The patterns will keep repeating until you address what's being projected, until you own what belongs to you, until you integrate what's been split off. Lisa found herself in a series of relationships with men who were brilliant but emotionally unavailable. She would be initially attracted to their intelligence, their success, their mysterious depth, but inevitably, she would find herself feeling lonely, unheard, constantly trying to earn their emotional attention. The pattern repeated so consistently that friends started joking about her type. But Lisa wasn't choosing these men consciously. She was unconsciously magnetizing them because they carried her own disowned intellectual authority. Growing up as a highly intelligent woman in a family that valued beauty over brains, she had learned to hide her own brilliance, to make herself smaller intellectually to avoid threatening others. The emotionally unavailable men were reflecting her own unavailability to her intellectual self. She was trying to connect with her own mind through them, which is why their emotional distance felt so familiar and so painful. Jung also understood that we project our contrasexual aspects, what he called the anima, the feminine aspect in men, and the animus, the masculine aspect in women. These projections create some of the most powerful attractions and the most painful conflicts in romantic relationships. When a man projects his anima onto a woman, he's not really seeing her as she is. He's seeing her as the carrier of his own feminine qualities, his intuition, his emotional depth, his receptivity, his nurturing capacity. When a woman projects her animus onto a man, she's seeing him as the carrier of her own masculine qualities, her strength, her decisiveness, her authority, her ability to act in the world. This projection creates the initial magic of romantic attraction. You feel complete with this person because they seem to carry the parts of yourself you've been missing. But it also creates inevitable disappointment when the real person can't live up to your projection. The solution isn't to stop projecting, that's impossible. The solution is to become conscious of your projections so you can withdraw them and own what belongs to you. When you develop your own inner masculine or feminine qualities, you stop needing others to carry them for you. Some of the most persistent projections involve what Jung called the parent imago, the internalized image of our parents that we carry into adult relationships. We unconsciously seek to recreate the dynamics of our childhood, not because we enjoyed them, but because they represent unfinished business. If you had a critical parent, you might find yourself attracted to partners who are subtly, or not so subtly, critical. If you had an abandoning parent, you might magnetize people who leave. If you had an overwhelming parent, you might attract partners who are intense and demanding. This isn't self-punishment. It's the psyche's attempt to heal the original wound by recreating the circumstances and then, hopefully, responding differently this time. But here's the key. The healing doesn't happen by trying to change the other person. It happens by recognizing the projection and doing the inner work to heal the original wound. Jung also understood that we don't just project individual shadow material, we also project collective shadow. These are the aspects that entire cultures, societies, or groups have disowned. In a culture that values positivity, we might project our collective depression and despair onto certain groups. In a society that prizes rationality, we might project our collective irrationality onto others. In a community that values conformity, we might project our collective rebelliousness onto the outcasts. Understanding collective projection helps explain why certain people become scapegoats, why certain groups are consistently demonized, why we create others to carry what we can't face about ourselves collectively. This dynamic plays out in families, workplaces, communities, and nations. The person who gets labeled as the problem is often carrying the shadow for the entire group. So how do you stop meeting the same person over and over? Jung's answer was individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all aspects of yourself, including the shadow. First, observe your patterns without judgment. What types of people do you repeatedly attract? What emotions do they consistently trigger? What do you find yourself complaining about again and again? What qualities do you consistently admire in others while believing you lack them yourself? Write down these patterns. Look for themes. Notice what keeps showing up in your relationships, both positive and negative. Then look inward. Ask yourself, how might this quality exist within me? Not in the same way it appears in others, but in some form. The aspects of others that disturb you most often point to your own unlived potential or unhealed wounds. This requires radical honesty. It means asking uncomfortable questions like, am I actually attracted to unavailable people because I'm afraid of real intimacy? Do I criticize others for being needy because I'm terrified of my own needs? Am I drawn to dramatic people because I've suppressed my own emotional expressiveness? Integration doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong process of becoming whole, of owning all aspects of yourself, of withdrawing your projections and taking responsibility for your own psychological material. This work often requires professional support. A skilled therapist can help you identify your projections, understand their origins, and develop strategies for integration. They can hold space for the difficult emotions that arise when you start owning disowned parts of yourself. But the work also happens in relationship. Every interaction is an opportunity to practice conscious relating. Every trigger is a chance to pause and ask, what is this person showing me about myself? Here's the beautiful truth Jung discovered. Projection is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be unwrapped. Every person who enters your life is offering you a chance to know yourself more deeply. When you stop seeing others as separate from you and start recognizing them as mirrors of your own psyche, relationships become opportunities for profound self-discovery. The annoying coworker becomes a teacher about your own impatience. The unavailable partner reflects your relationship with your own emotional accessibility. The controlling friend shows you your own disowned need for control. This doesn't mean everyone in your life is just a projection. People have their own reality and experiences. But the intense emotional reactions you have to them, those are yours to explore. When you begin to work with projection consciously, you develop what Jung called psychological mindedness. You become curious about your reactions rather than certain about other people's flaws. You ask questions instead of making judgments. You look for what's being triggered in you rather than focusing on what's wrong with them. As you begin withdrawing your projections and owning what belongs to you, something magical happens. You stop attracting the same patterns. The people who used to trigger you no longer have the same power over you. You begin meeting others from a place of wholeness rather than need. This doesn't mean you become emotionally flat or disconnected. It means you become more authentic, more present, more capable of genuine relationship. When you're not constantly reacting to projections, you can actually see people as they are. You also become more attractive to healthier people. When you're not carrying unconscious wounds that need healing through others, you attract partners, friends, and colleagues who are also doing their own work. The transformation is gradual but profound. You might notice that you're less reactive to certain behaviors. You might find yourself attracted to different types of people. You might discover that old patterns simply stop showing up in your life. Jung called this the withdrawal of projections, and it's one of the most liberating experiences in human psychology. When you stop looking for others to complete you, heal you, or carry your disowned parts, you become free to meet them as they truly are. Conscious relationship doesn't mean the end of attraction, chemistry, or deep connection. It means that your connections are based on reality rather than projection, on choice rather than compulsion, on love rather than need. In conscious relationship, you can appreciate someone's qualities without needing to possess them. You can be triggered by someone's behavior without making it about their character. You can love someone without trying to change them. This kind of relationship requires ongoing commitment to self-awareness. It means regularly asking yourself, what am I projecting here? What is this person showing me about myself? How can I own what belongs to me? The ultimate goal isn't to stop projecting entirely. That's impossible. The goal is to become conscious of your projections so they don't unconsciously run your life. When you own your anger, your power, your sensitivity, your needs, you stop magnetizing people to carry these aspects for you. You begin to choose relationships from consciousness rather than compulsion. You attract people who complement your wholeness rather than complete your emptiness. This is what Jung meant by developing your inner authority. Instead of looking to others for validation, completion, or healing, you become the source of your own wholeness. You develop an inner relationship with all aspects of yourself, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, strong and vulnerable. Every relationship is a sacred mirror reflecting back aspects of yourself you might not otherwise see. The person who challenges you, the one who inspires you, the one who frustrates you, they're all serving your growth, whether they know it or not. Jung understood that the journey toward wholeness happens through relationship. We can't individuate in isolation. We need others to show us who we are, to reflect our light and our shadow, to help us integrate all aspects of our humanity. This is why solitude alone, while valuable, isn't sufficient for psychological growth. We need the friction of relationship, the mirror of the other, the challenge of seeing ourselves reflected in different ways. But we also need to remember that others aren't just mirrors. They're full human beings with their own inner lives, their own struggles, their own journey towards wholeness. The art of conscious relationship is learning to see others both as mirrors for our own growth and as sovereign individuals deserving of respect and love. Often, the people we keep meeting carry not just our personal projections, but generational ones. We might be unconsciously recreating patterns that go back generations in our family system. If your grandmother was abandoned, your mother might have developed patterns around abandonment that she passed on to you. If your grandfather was emotionally shut down, that emotional unavailability might show up in your relationships decades later. Understanding these generational patterns can help you see that you're not just healing your own wounds, you're healing ancestral wounds that have been passed down through your family line. This work of conscious relationship isn't just personal. It's collective, it's spiritual. When you stop unconsciously recreating old patterns, you break cycles that may have been repeating for generations. The next time you notice yourself in a familiar pattern attracting the same type of person, having the same arguments, feeling the same frustrations, pause. Ask yourself, what is this person showing me about myself? What part of my own psyche am I meeting through them? This isn't about blame or self-judgment. It's about curiosity, about growth, about the beautiful complexity of human relationship. It's about recognizing that everyone who enters your life is a teacher, offering you a chance to know yourself more deeply. Jung's invitation is radical: to see every relationship as a doorway to self-knowledge, every conflict as a call to consciousness, every repeated pattern as your psyche's attempt to heal itself through others. When you truly understand projection, you realize that you've never actually met the same person twice. You've met different people carrying the same aspects of yourself. And once you own those aspects, integrate them, and make them conscious, the pattern completes itself. You stop being unconsciously magnetic to certain types because you're no longer split off from those parts of yourself. You become whole, and from that wholeness, you attract and are attracted to others who are also on the path of integration. This is Jung's ultimate promise, that consciousness leads to freedom, that self-knowledge leads to authentic relationship, that wholeness leads to love. The person you keep meeting isn't out there. They're in here, waiting to be acknowledged, accepted, and integrated. And once you meet them fully within yourself, you'll be free to meet everyone else with fresh eyes and an open heart. Your relationships will no longer be driven by unconscious need, but by conscious choice. You'll stop meeting the same person over and over because you will have finally truly met yourself. This is the path of individuation, the journey toward wholeness, the sacred work of becoming who you truly are. It's not easy, but it's the most important work you'll ever do. And every relationship, every single person who enters your life is here to help you on this journey. The mirror is always there, waiting to show you who you are. The question is, are you ready to look?